Hello, everyone. We'll dedicate this class for the immediate healing of Santino Campos and his mother. He was born with difficulties and is in the natal ICU. So, one of the things that I learned way back when about psychology is that one of the techniques to deal with trauma from the past that we don't really remember what happened is to try to write ourselves with our left hand and a crayon, as if we are the child contacting the adult, and then writing back with our right hand, and if we're righty, obviously. Um, and writing back with a pen and paper properly. So the reason why I'm mentioning this technique is because Shinui, doing something different, um, as much as it works, it still doesn't really work. And if the doctor, for example, is trying to prescribe a medication or to make sure that the nurse gives more or less of a dosage, and tries to write it with crayon or with a marker, and a different shinui also with his left hand if he's a righty, then that's the example that I would like to work with because it's very practical, and every single um, letter or word that the doctor writes on Shabbat is to save a life. Why? Because if the doctor does not write that morphine, for example, was applied, and then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, it doesn't say here that morphine was applied," and then they give him another one, they give the patient another shot that can kill them. So that's why it's important to talk about saving lives and to do or not to do with a shinui. So that's what this is about. So when dealing with saving lives on Shabbat, a serious dilemma arises. On the one hand, it would seem to be preferable to use a shinui when doing whatever melachot are necessary. After all, when a melacha is done in a normal way, one violates Torah law, while when it is done with a shinui, one transgresses only, in quotation marks, rabbinically. We learned that in chapter 9 and other places. On the other hand, when it comes to saving a life on Shabbat, the sages proclaimed that one who acts quickly is to be praised, meaning that we try to do it as fa fast as possible. So, for example, an ambulance should go even above the speed limit and not crash into anybody, but do it quickly and um, to save a life, even if they don't know for sure that when they get to the patient or to the accident that they'll be able to save anybody. If so, it would seem preferable to refrain from placing constraints upon one who is attempting to save a life. Rather, they should act as they would on a weekday, as efforts such as minimizing Shabbat desecration or attempting to do the melachot with a shinui are likely to slow them down. This is especially true if they think it is necessary to consult with a rabbi about how to act when a person's life in danger, like we talked about yesterday, where it's better not to ask a rabbi, but to know in advance that it's important to do it by Gedolei Israel, as we talked about yesterday. In practice, the basic principle is that rescue efforts must be undertaken in the best and fastest way possible. If trying to do melachot with a shinui is likely to delay treatment, or like I said in the example, that it may be not even readable, it is preferable to do them in the normal fashion without any shinui. This is because, according to Halacha, the rescuer may do melachot in the normal way, since saving a life overrides Shabbat. In addition, by the way, it says that all those who save can go back to their place, even though it means breaking Shabbat by car or whatever. And that was given already in the time of the Mishnah, where it says that they found out that the city was under attack, and they went to save them, and then when they finished doing whatever they needed to. They asked somebody, are we supposed to stay here for the rest of Shabbat? And the answer was absolutely not, because that will deter people in the future from going as fast as possible and sufficiently and effectively as possible. Nevertheless, when it is clear that a shinui will not hamper the rescue in any way, it is preferable lechatchila to make use of a shinui. Therefore, it is advisable for doctors, nurses, and emergency medical workers to learn how to minimize Shabbat desecration while saving a person's life. And going back to the example about the left hand, I once again beat AI because when I tried to write the experiment the way that I remember it, there was no results. But there are videos to teach uh, right-handed people how to write with their left hand, and if you did perfect that, then that's a good idea. But again, it needs to be uh, readable and clear what it is. And last but not least, there's a similar dilemma regarding treatments normally administered to a gravely ill patient during the week, some of which are not necessary to prevent their death. And for example, putting somebody on a scale to weigh them and other stuff. Since the caregivers do not know which treatments are truly necessary and which are not, they must treat the patient just as they would treat them during the week. However, one who understands medicine and knows for certain that a specific melacha is not necessary to save the patient, or that the treatment can be postponed until after Shabbat, they should avoid doing the melacha on Shabbat. Palliative treatments are administered on Shabbat even when it is clear that they do not treat the disease, because when the patient's pain is reduced, they will have more strength to overcome their illness, and that's true psychology. And we'll stop here.